Just to clarify, I don't particularly care about what Dunkey says. He is entitled to his own opinion, yada yada yada, you know? But I've been sent this video so many times, I have to talk about it as there's a lot I feel is wrong with it. And the fact that it has 14 million views is disheartening. Just to present where my biases come from, Assassin's Creed is a weird thing for me. I love and hate half the franchise, but my feelings towards it is a lot more nuanced than they have no hidden blades or that I'm not an assassin. It is how those things are used and presented, how much care and thought has been put into the things that make the franchise unique. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which a game I consider to be one of the best Assassin's Creed games, is praised, and to a certain extent, understandably so, for the pirate fantasy. But if you look at it deeper, it does a lot for Edward Kenway and his connection with the Assassin's Brotherhood and how it gives him purpose. It's a really well thought out story using the Assassin's Creed as a way to build Edward as a character. But I don't think Ubisoft and a lot of the general audience acknowledges this. And I believe it's mainly partly due to Black Flag that Ubisoft has taken the wrong direction and wrong criticisms about the franchise. And I feel like this video by Dunkey is a big offender to that to a certain extent, as he actually makes some decent points about AC4 and some of the practices Ubisoft does to sell their games. But he clearly has specific expectations of what a game should do, but not entirely acknowledging what the game actually does. He compares the Uncharted franchise and Assassin's Creed 1's dialogue, talking about personality and sass. I'm sorry, I'm losing it, because you see, context matters. Let's take a look at what's happening in Uncharted's narrative. Uncharted 4, for example, is meant to be this over-the-top action-adventure treasure hunt game. That's great. It does it very well, clearly. Assassin's Creed, sure, within the modern day, it has the treasure hunt element, but it uses the animus as a way to find said treasures. In the first game, you play as Desmond Miles, who is trapped in this cold, foreboding room, forced to relive these memories against your will, or he'll die. It isn't supposed to be fun. The environment enforces the feeling of this cold isolation wonderfully, both in the modern day and in the Holy Land during the Third Crusade, which, by the way, was not a fun time to live in. I looked it up. And with that in mind, I think it makes sense that the literal assassins during this time period would be acting in this way and not in this over-the-top, sassy way as he seems to desire. And I'll talk more about the other game's dialogue as it definitely varies depending on the game, but I just need to defend AC1 as it's treated like a disappointed stepchild by the general populace, I feel. Let's talk about the modern day, as that's always something people will actively try and get rid of. As Desmond, within the modern day, you'll find mysteries to uncover things like emails and rooms to unlock by looking for clues, waiting for opportunities using the skills you learned as the assassin Altair, and utilize it yourself. That to me is cool. It tells me that the game has passion, that it's thoughtful. Not only is it cool, but it actually makes sense in the context of the narrative. Desmond is trapped. He is not a fully fledged assassin. We learn all of this through the dialogue and through emails. And within these emails, we learn more about the bigger threat that Abstergo is, how much power and control they really have. It's all done intentionally within these confines that you are a prisoner. So it makes sense that Desmond will also want to try and find information that could possibly help him out. Between that, you have dialogue exploring the ideologies of the Assassins and Templars, the different understandings of freedom. This is important as we are going through the memories of Altair and progressing through the game killing Templars. As Altair grows in understanding, so does Desmond, and the dialogue is spoken with such conviction. Listen to how Desmond and Vidic interact, with Vidic having this level of condescending in his voice.
And help you with your treasure hunt.
This is serious business, Mr. Miles. I don't think you fully appreciate the work that Abstergo does.
Maybe because I don't actually know what you people do.
We change the world, every day, in 100 different ways. Did you know that nearly every single breakthrough of the past millennia, be it medical, mechanical, or philosophical, has come from Abstergo or its predecessors?
That's a bold claim, Doc.
In contrast to how passionate Lucy sounds when talking to Desmond.
The other half is misinformation intentionally produced by the Templars themselves.
But they are the bad guys, right?
If there's one thing I've learned since I started working here, it's that there's no such thing. It's all so relative. I guess the best way to explain it is, what they want is good, but the way they're going about it, it's bad. Really bad.
What are they trying to do? Lucy?
Yes.
Miss Stillman.
In the case of what Altair is doing, he is going out of his way and learning about the different ways that these cities have been corrupted by the Templars. We see people get beaten up, we see people being taken advantage of, we see people getting killed brutally. The game highlights these things. Compared to Uncharted, where you are just mindlessly shooting tons and tons of enemies for fun trying to get treasure, it's just night and day. Look, I can just spend the entire video just talking about this specific comparison, but let me just end it like this. Let's listen to one of the main themes of Assassin's Creed 1 and compare it to one of the themes for Uncharted. Both games, both pieces of art are supposed to influence a different type of emotion. Art is supposed to do that. Assassin's Creed 1, throughout its music, its writing, and the character work, is supposed to push this feeling that you are in the center of this war, out of your control. You're trying to understand it the best you can, and the things that you find is dark. You're not supposed to feel safe, you're not supposed to feel comfortable, and at times you're not supposed to have fun. These things, these ideas that they're working with is dark and is represented that way throughout everything that I've talked about in the game. In contrast to Uncharted, where we are now finally seeing the end of Nathan Drake, the end of his journey. And it works well with the themes the game explores with piracy, family, and the whole treasure hunt aspect. It makes sense. On the actual game itself, I see some people make the argument that killing Templars is boring. The process can feel repetitive, as you have to...
Yes. We can eavesdrop, we can pickpocket, or we can use violence to intimidate.
Good, you remember.
So you'd have me walk amongst the others and learn what I can about the traitor?
Yes. Begin by going to the village market. That's where we first spotted the traitor.
You know who it is?
Perhaps.
Then give me a name and let's be done with it.
That's not the way it works.
That's the point. Altair has to do this because he broke tenets of the Creed. He got his brothers killed. He lost his rank as master, and this is the direct consequence of that. And he's clearly annoyed by it. This process of gathering information is clearly intentional and well thought out, not padding. Whenever you find a new piece of information within the investigation, if you look at the DNA segments, you see things like notes and maps related to the target and their location. Also, you are able to freely decide where to go in an area and get 3 pieces of information and you're done. Also, the way it feels to approach a good amount of these investigations can be dictated by the environment. As you progress, enemies will be more aware of you, so going to the rooftops is the wise play, but using high profile actions will get you noticed, so you may have to look for an optimal route so you don't get caught. Plan ahead. Some specific information may be behind a guarded area, and sure, you can make an argument that the pickpocket and races can feel repetitive, and to a certain extent, sure. But the thing is, you can choose what information you gather. So if you don't want to do a race, you can just do something else. I think the power of choice in this case is incredibly meaningful. And the information you do gather from these investigations is integral to killing your target. You go to the bureau to turn in the information you have to the Rafik. And within each city, Altair will have a unique
Safety
dynamic
and peace,
with them.
Malik.
Your presence here deprives me of both. What do you want?
Al-Muallim has asked.
Ask that you perform some menial task in an effort to redeem yourself. So be out with it.
Very well, here's what I know.
As the game progresses, you see these dynamics develop as he grows as a character throughout each sequence. These points of growth happen at the end of each sequence, when killing the Templars. Dunkey says that these moments are unsatisfying, but to me it comes across he wants something more badass when killing a man in cold blood.
Bam! You see that? That was badass. You know what isn't badass? Building these villains up forever to be the biggest, most arrogant assholes on planet Earth. And then when you finally kill them, it cuts to slow motion and you're holding them like a baby, reading them their last rites. What the fuck?
Dunkey very much downplays the significance of the confessions. In the context of the game, in the beginning, Altair is incredibly arrogant, overconfident in his ability, and it costs him everything, which allows him to start over and gives him the ability to see things differently, to ask questions, to try and understand a larger threat. He does these investigations and learns of the cruelty his targets does to innocents, but instead of being painted as these entirely evil entity, as you go through these confessions, you learn what drives them. It may be things such as isolation, fear, or power, and these confessions help inform Altair's character, allowing him to understand the creed in a new light, and we see that through how he acts throughout the game.
What is the truth?
We place faith in ourselves. We see the world the way it really is, and hope that one day all mankind might see the same.
What is the world, then?
An illusion, one which we can either submit to, as most do, or transcend.
What is it to transcend?
To recognize nothing is true and everything is permitted, that laws arise not from divinity but reason. I understand now that our creed does not command us to be free. It commands us to be wise.
Assassin's Creed 2 also expands on the significance of treating your opponents with respect and honor. But then Dunkey proclaims that none of these games have Uncharted-like set pieces, but I'm already playing multiple in the background. Which is insane. He says this as these games both came out around the same time. But okay. This open world design philosophy is expanded on more in AC2, and its flaws are still apparent, but it most definitely doesn't break the game. Even more so, Brotherhood improves upon this, and in fact, I'll even go far to say that Ancient Rome is one of Ubisoft's best and most interesting game worlds in terms of diversity of content. You have exploration-based activities like tombs, you also have missions that help develop Ezio as a character, and within the open world itself, you're fighting to take Rome back from the Templars. Mainly by destroying bases or towers, more specifically to make your own and use that to spread your influence in Rome and help out the different factions of your choosing. Doing so will give you more unique side content that will push you to use different tools in your arsenal. Such as using this gun that your best friend Leonardo da Vinci makes for you. That's right, you heard me. Leonardo da Vinci is the boy, and you help him destroy Templar weapons, and in this case here, you get to use a tank and fight other things. All of Brotherhood's content and features inform each other immensely, and I can go ahead and make the video at least another 15 minutes longer exploring that more in depth, but I think anyone who actually plays Brotherhood will get that. Circling back for a bit on the point of tanks and towers, that really reminds me of another game where you are in a militarized city having to fight an opposing force as a caped character. The tanks actually function pretty similarly as well. The reason why I'm breaking all this up is because there's a specific point in Dunkey's video where he brings out a bunch of buzzwords describing the franchise as a whole. And to a certain extent, I can actually agree, but I just don't understand how you can play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in this case and think it's unimpressionable, irrelevant, especially considering how these first 4 games were some of the most influential games in terms of the open world genre we ever have, for better and for worse, granted. But back on the topic of Brotherhood, I don't know how Dunkey can say there is no personality and the characters talk like robots when this is a scene in the 3rd installment of the game.
Hey, what's the matter you, Altair?
That's racist.
You're racist.
And you wanna know why this works? Well, one, Desmond isn't trapped in a cold room forced to work under some timeline, under some warden. He is with people he's called friends throughout AC2, and in this game, the relationship has been built up, so moments like this are earned. Now, does these things always land, especially in later games? Hell no, but what we had was pretty good, and the fact people seemingly don't acknowledge that is bizarre to me. The final point I want to cover in Dunkey's video is him saying that these games have no stakes or drama within the story. Let me take you at the end of Assassin's Creed Revelations. You see, throughout the game, you are playing mainly as Ezio as he tries and get more understanding of what his purpose is in the world, pretty much. He has done revenge, he has done justice, now all he wants is answers. And he gets those answers through these memory seals left by Altair. Within these memory seals, they give you playable sections of Altair where you get to explore his family, his relationships with his friends and the Brotherhood as a whole, and how he was practically burdened with knowledge. The knowledge of the ones who came before, the knowledge that he needs to save for someone else when the time is right. And he has spent his entire life just to prepare for this day. No family, no loved ones, just him by himself, sitting, holding, and waiting for someone when the time is right. Ezio, seeing all of this, realizes that he wants nothing to do with the Creed or these treasures anymore. And it's here where he finally gets the answers to his own questions and understand his purpose in the grand scheme of things, that he is only a conduit for Desmond to get that understanding, to be the one to save the world. Throughout these games, we learn of the impending doom of Earth, how this upcoming solar flare happened before, to the ones who came before. The precursors left these temples, these treasures, this knowledge, so humans can prepare so it can never happen again. And now it's up to Desmond to stop it from happening at the end of 2012. All the relationships built up and all the ones lost has been built up to this moment. I'll just let it speak for itself.
Desmond?
He's talking to me.
I heard your name once before, Desmond. A long time ago. And now it lingers in my mind, like an image from an old dream. I do not know where you are, or by what means you can hear me. But I know you are listening. I have lived my life as best I could, not knowing its purpose, but drawn forward like a moth to a distant moon. And here at last, I discover a strange truth. That I am only a conduit for a message that eludes my understanding. Who are we, who have been so blessed, to share our stories like this? To speak across centuries. Maybe you will answer all the questions I have asked. Maybe you will be the one to make all this suffering worth something in the end. Now, listen.
With what Assassin's Creed was, we really had something truly special. You want to talk about risk? The first game was risky. Not only is it quite risky and innovative to make a game like the first Assassin's Creed in a world full of first-person shooters and platformers, but also with the idea of playing as a Syrian male protagonist killing Christians and Muslim forces in a post-9/11 world. The series was founded upon with risk, and it expanded upon that for years. Playing with elements like the ones who came before, how they influenced history with their technology. An advanced species that created humans, the different ideologies, the perspectives of freedom, the way all that was interwoven to make something truly special. And for years, it has quite frankly been a shell of its former self. I can't blame people like Dunkey to say that this franchise is boring, that these games are the way they are to how he describes them. But he also just clearly doesn't want to make sense of what it was, and I think that's the key word, was. These games were something, they did mean something, but it's all past tense, because currently Assassin's Creed is boring.